Hello, welcome to Tony's Bonsai. There's been a challenge going on called the Landscape Challenge, started by Gail at GG Evergreen Bonsai, and the idea is you create basically some kind of penjing landscape. And I've been trying to think of something to come up with for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I've not really been inspired. But today, the inspiration came. This morning, I had to move around 100 trees from my garden because I need some space for some work that's been done. And while I was moving the trees, I thought, let's record myself moving them and talk about some of my plants, some updates. And while I was doing it, I came across this tree. I think this was something I picked up for free. And I've never done anything with it. I have no idea what you can even do with this. I might have a go in a future video, see if I can produce something out of it, but I don't even think it's a good species for bonsai, so who knows. To cut a long story short, I've been answering comments on my video yesterday, which is all about vine weevils, and I started thinking maybe that tree was ill because it had the same thing. So I brought them in here, went at it with a chopstick, and it turns out that there wasn't just one tree in there, there was several, all in the same pot. And I think the reason it wasn't doing well is just because there was not enough room for the roots and it was all too compact and tight. Having got them apart, you know, they're not looking the healthiest, but I think they should live. They've got decent roots on them, and I've been inspired as to the landscape I'm going to produce. I'll give you a quick look at each tree now, and I've had to remove a lot of the lower branches that were dead. They've got decent root bases on them. The trunks are very straight. See, all this dead stuff here may as well come off. And, you know, I thought, what can be done with a tree like that? And they're all the same. Some of them are smaller, like this one. It's a bit thinner, but it's again very sort of long and thin. I've got another twin trunk here. That's quite nice, but again, long straight tree. And I was thinking, what can I do with these? Now to the landscape, and what can I do with those trees? Well, because of my background in landscape photography, I'm familiar with a lot of different landscapes from all around the world. I've not really visited them, but I've seen photos. And one place that I do really want to visit at some point in the future is Tuscany in Italy. They're famous for rolling hills with long, thin cypress trees. And if you've ever seen the film Gladiator, most people have, quite a few of the scenes in Gladiator were filmed in Tuscany. And I thought I'd create a landscape with trees. They're near enough all on lines at the edge of roads. So I thought if I could create some kind of hill, maybe a road coming through the scene, with these trees in a line, I thought that might work quite well. I was a bit inspired by Dave's Bonsai. He's creating a really nice composition, and he's used roads and forced perspective and things, and I've liked it. I've enjoyed watching it. So I thought I could do something similar, but trying to create the feel of Tuscany. So I'm going to get some, I've got my holes in this, I'm going to put some soil in it and then start planting these trees up. First job, let's get some soil in here. There we go. I want a definite hill, but I want it to be like a sweeping hill. Over to one side and towards the back, like that. I will add just a touch more to the top, because I think everything will end up sort of sliding downwards. So I'll start with a nice hill, and I'll start with the largest tree. This twin trunk, it's got a nice root base, but of all of the trees, this one seems to be the worst in terms of health. It's quite brown, but I've got a feeling with a nice set of roots like that, I think this will be okay. And this is one that I'd like to be on the top of the hill. So my plan is just to push that down like that and sort of sit that in place there. The other twin trunk, I quite like the fact that these are twin trunks. It almost adds an extra tree to the composition. But this one has got one of these low branches. That's better being removed like that. And the question is, where do I have it? I don't want it right next to this, but perhaps somewhere around here. Maybe there. I don't know if this bowl is going to be big enough. I'm not sure. Now, I've got three other large trees and one tiny tree. I may not use the tiny one. Do I put the other large one in the middle, or do I put the other large one over here? I think I like it over this side. Like that. And then these smaller trees, I think perhaps I can have the really small one there. Well, it's not the really small one. This is the really small one, but as I say, I don't think I'll use that. The twin trunk there. And this one here. So that's creating a kind of crescent. This is, oh no, they're going everywhere. Come on. Right. So that's the very basic first positioning of these trees. And what do I think of it? I need to come where you are and have a look. I like this one being nice and low compared to this, so it really shows that hill going up. I'm not sure about the spacing of those. To give that effect of Tuscany, I need them in more of a line like this. And in Tuscany they don't splay out, they're all pretty much vertical. It's interesting, I don't know about this. I thought it might look a bit better than that. I'm preferring that. I think that works better with them in the line. So I've kind of settled on the fact that they are in a line as opposed to a crescent. So that's forward movement. This one's got quite a big stump on the bottom and it's stopping it sitting low in the pot. So I'll take that stump off there and that should then, oh, that's much better. That sits better there now. I'm happy with that. Yeah. So that sits lower. That allows this hill to appear. And I'm wondering if the hill's high enough. Perhaps this hill has to come up like that. This is still low, which I like. Now it's just the heights of them. Maybe they'd be better if these two were switched and then I had more height in the centre, less height down on this edge, like that. Oh. Down she goes. Good thing about these trees, they've got cracking nebari. really good, almost radial Nabari growing. So when these are established, if they establish and if this all works out, it should create a really good, kind of image. Right. Got a feeling that works better. And it does. I prefer that. And even more so, the way this tree is there, I think it needs to go the other way. I know it's a bit more traditional, but if I take this around in this way, like that, it does feel to me now like this is beginning to look right. And this is the kind of messing about you've got to do when you're putting together a group. You've got to keep playing with ideas, coming back to sort of what your original ideas were regarding the trees, making sure that you're not sort of moving too far away from that original idea, but then adapting what you're doing to create something that still looks good. The idea's okay, but the idea's no good if what I'm producing doesn't have that sort of visual appeal. And I've definitely got that hill going up. Just want to pull this back there. Push that forward a touch. Right, how's that look? Let me come round and see. I'm beginning to like that, yeah. At the moment, this hill is kind of even on both sides, but I would prefer it if it had a bias going up and then down. I'm going to try to lift this one like that. These branches on the front of this are too low. They don't fit in with the sort of exposed trunk on the rest of the tree. So on the rest of the trees, should I say. So by taking those off now, this one should fit in just a bit better. Like that. I'm beginning to get picky now, and this is what you've got to do when you're putting groups together. I want a gap here between these two, ideally, which means that this one could do with coming across a bit, just to add that bit more space between these, like that. Yep. Again, I want the trees vertical, I don't want them splayed out. They can splay out a little bit. What I'm beginning to wonder is, do I need this trunk on this tree here? Does that serve any purpose? Because if I remove that, if this goes, suddenly we've got a lot more space to work with. And I think it'd be nice just having one twin trunk and the rest all singles. So I'm going to make the decision. I'm going to remove that branch, and that should give me the extra space that I'm looking for to make these all, you know, individual trees. Because in the cypress trees in Tuscany, you can see in between each tree. You know, they don't merge together like a hedge. I wouldn't cut that one off that one though, because I like the way that that is a twin trunk. I think that is, it just adds some interest, and to me it kind of just adds a focal point and stops them looking too orderly. Right, let me see how this is beginning to look. Yes, better. I'm beginning to get that feel now. That's what I was looking for. To protect this hill now from basically being washed away when I water it, what I'm going to do is just put a layer of moss over the top like this. This is sphagnum moss. I've not got any proper moss. There's pretty much none at my house. I used what I did have the other day on, actually it's a really interesting group planting that's coming up in the next few days. It's a 16 tree root over rock, so there's a few bits of grass in here. I'm just pulling those bits of grass out, but the rest I'll just cover it with this, and when I do find some proper moss I'll replace this with the proper moss, but for the time being this'll do the job. So I'll damp this moss down now, then I should be able to sort of squeeze it and squash it into place a bit. I probably should have dampened this moss off before I put it in, thinking about it, but it doesn't matter. I just realised that the bottom of this tree doesn't really match the rest of the trees, so if I can just take these branches off there, that'll just match it up to the rest of them. If you've not seen any of the other landscape challenges, I recommend you check some of them out. There have been some absolute beauties. I can't remember everybody's. Matt did a nice one, Andy, Candice, obviously Gail's, Nigel, Dave. But check out Steve's Backyard Bonsai. He did this composition. It took him a long time, to be fair, but he built going through Hyde Park out of brick. It's just phenomenal. It looks superb. And this is nothing like that kind of effort, but I am pleased with it because it does kind of remind me of those images of Tuscany, and that's what I want. I'm going to come back in the future, probably be 2 or 3 months, and I'm going to do some penjing. I might put a path, probably a path coming up the hill, some other bits and bobs, but I'll do that once this is set in place and it's sort of growing and healthy. Until then, I'll just leave it to do its thing. As always, thanks for joining me. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.